Thank you so much. So this morning, I'm glad that we have some visitors and some others that haven't been here for a while. I just want to take a moment to explain what unity is and what we teach. And we're not some sort of off-the-wall New Age organization. It's what was known as New Thought, and Unity began with some others in the late 1800s, as a matter of fact. And the teachings, there are 5 principles, and they're very simple. There's a power in the universe that we call God that is all good. And you can use any name you want to for God, anything that works for you. If it reminds you of some teachings that you learned as a youngster, and you think about some teachings of sin and salvation and some things that didn't feel so good to you, then think of another name. Think of Spirit, universal truth, love, anything that works for you. So that's the main principle. The second one is that we are each unique and each have the ability to connect to God at any moment, at any time. And as Jesus reminded us, you can do what I do. You're of the same light and the same source that I come from, he said. But that is so often overlooked in the teachings. And third is that we believe in the power of prayer. Fourth, we believe that our thoughts are powerful, incredibly powerful. I'm going to talk about that. And principle 2 this morning of your inherent good and worth. And then, without even saying, since unity was established as practical Christianity or practical spirituality, number 5, we walk the talk. So this morning, I want to talk about discover your true worth. And if I could go back and undo the slide, and the name of my talk, I would probably have changed it to be Uncover Your True Worth, because it was always there. You just didn't know it. Or maybe you hadn't asked to see it before. Maybe you learned growing up that, or you were taught that you weren't worthy. And it's taking a long time to unlearn all of that. And right now, we're in the midst of huge spiritual growth and evolution, aren't we? You just think about the changes we've gone through in the last 2 or 3 years, and some of them that we've let go, and we're willing to come back together and love each other again. Think of the families that broke up over something as silly as a vaccine. At the time, we didn't think we'd ever look back on those times that were so traumatic, did we? That were causing angst, not only in our country, but all over the world. And it's so easy to forgive. All you have to do is be willing to forget. I'm willing to see that differently. Well, I can't believe I got upset over that. Wasn't that a trivial matter? Why did I even care about what somebody else did? So transition is not easy. It's messy. And I think that's what we've been through, especially that's right in front of our faces the last 3 years, if not more. This is a photo of Sherry in the butterfly garden in Puerto Rico. one of our musicians here, for those of you the violinist. She's my daughter, by the way. Isn't that a beautiful butterfly? And I came across this quote: if nothing ever changed, there would be no butterflies. And I want us to think about that for a moment, how many life changes we go through. And I want to encourage you to look at them differently today. I'm going to say something that is going to strike you as weird or odd, but accept it as something that I think is important to hear. And that it's interesting to me that at midlife, especially, women especially, and maybe men don't notice it as much, but there are huge changes. What if it's a metamorphosis from who we were into the incredibly wise woman we are turning out to be, just like the butterfly, without struggle, without mess, without even a little discomfort? The butterfly would have never come into being. And those of us that are of an age where we've gone through maybe a couple of transitions or more, and maybe they weren't easy, maybe they were painful, and maybe they were very uncomfortable. Let's look at it a different way and start being grateful. Every time you have a hot flash, ladies, fan yourself and say, thank God I'm changing again. Here I am right in the middle of becoming a wise, wild woman, and I can't wait. I'm going to embrace that every moment of every day. I hope you will too. Here's something else that's extremely important. This was a post that our friend that was here last week, Valina, now listen carefully, okay? Anybody that's ignoring me, okay, that's zoned out, okay, listen, this is important. And I know it's hard not to zone out for 20 minutes, I know that. Keep the promises you make to yourself. This is your magic. This is the way home. Build a routine. Understand the power of discipline. We don't talk about that a whole lot. It's the highest form of self-love. It means even when you don't feel like it, you hold yourself up. Everybody get that? We're talking about self-worth today, so this is incredibly important. If you're a person that cancels things all too often, if you keep people waiting, if you make plans and even forget that you made the plans, listen to me about this. Absolutely, you're disappointing others. There's no question. You're disappointing others. No question about that. And I've been disappointed a time or two. We all have. But let me tell you the main thing that's happening here. You are disappointing yourself one more time. Now, understand the importance when we're extremely busy and we make too many commitments that sometimes you have to let something go and apologize. I understand that. I've had to do it myself. But if you will be within your realm of higher consciousness and think with your higher mind instead of just impulse at the moment before committing, it will keep you from doing that as often. And if you're a person that overcommits, take that into prayer. Journal about it. Go within. Decide what your priorities are. We cannot be everything to everybody. We cannot. I know because I've tried. I've tried that too. You cannot be everything to everybody. So, if you're not keeping your promises to yourself, you're letting yourself down, and every time you do that, you're taking a little bit away from your own self-esteem and confidence. It's the way it works. So be very, very careful about the promises you make and keep them. This week I was thinking a lot about what I was going to talk about today, and I recognize that there's so many ways that we feel that we're not worthy. I was reading an article by a woman that said that it was so heartfelt and so touching. She said that when she was a child, she was an absolutely gorgeous little 5-year-old, went to school, so excited, couldn't wait to get there, just excited the way she had been with life up to that point. But it didn't take long to learn that she didn't fit in. Didn't take long for her to learn that other people, other kids need to tear you down so they can build themselves up. And because she was a little weaker and she had really curly hair and she was really thin and she wore really thick glasses, she was the target of most of the bullies in the school, in her class in particular. They made fun of her every moment of every day, she said. Even some of her teachers joined in. Her math teacher even said she was stupid. And she got so nervous about taking a test that she found that on those days her anxiety wouldn't even allow her to stay at school because she got sick. And she didn't recognize then she was like everyone else. She was deciding she was different. She had no worth. She had no value. If she were just different, she might fit in. So she took it to heart. So she tried to blend in, but during those early formative years, she didn't. And so she spent the several years of her early adulthood compensating. She went on to school and she hid her true self most of the time because she was still afraid of being made fun of. Because it turns out there are a lot of bullies out there. Did you know that? There are a lot of people that like to bring other people down because they don't feel like they're good enough. That's all there is about it. And there's still some adults doing that. They're 9-year-olds in whatever age body. They never felt good enough either. And so we need to pray for them. I've said before, look at the news and there's your prayer list. Pray for them instead of judging. It's not pretty. But we need to pray for their self-esteem too, or they would never be that way. So she went on, she said she had she must have become open. She wasn't even aware of it, but somehow there had been an opening in her mind and her being that she wanted to see differently. I want to see something differently. And so she had an epiphany, and she was traveling, and she just saw how she had not been happy. She had never been herself. She was still hiding the true person. She was a people pleaser. She did not think she was as good as the next person at work. She wasn't as attractive. She wasn't as smart. She was never as good as anybody. They were always better than her, and she needed to always give in to whatever it was they wanted because her opinion didn't matter. And she really did a turnaround. She took some time. She realized that even her health, she had been eating for comfort. She decided to quit that. She decided that there were just several things she was going to change about her life, but first she decided to journal and really, really process this and take time to do it. She changed her life. She turned her life around through deciding that she had value. And I've given you some handouts to take with you if you'd like to refer back to them later in the week. If we want to pray for retrieval of our true self, and I say retrieve because it was always there, it was never missing. You might say, "Dear Creator God, I realize," let's look at that word there, to make real. I realize my innate self that I have chosen to hide in order to simply survive. And we don't go with illusions. I know there's some teachings that say, oh, it's just, there's another way of looking at life. This is just an illusion. Well, I don't look at it that way. We are here on this earth with a purpose. We have a body. Yes, our true self is indeed our higher self and our spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, that comes into this body at birth and leaves after death. But this real life is important. Our bodies are important. So we make real. Please, I pray that my innate self that I've chosen to hide, I want to shine a light on it right now. I want my soul to be on fire for good. And recognize, let's look at that word for a minute. You all think about this word with me, if you would. What's the word recognize mean to you? It means I see you and I recognize who you are. But if you really look at the word and how it came to be, I'm going to recognize whatever I have already decided is true. Okay? Or the truth about me or life. So if I recognize, then to cognize means to understand, to rethink, and see from a higher way, not just look at things the way I always have. I'm going to have a new thought about this. I'm going to cognize this again and again and again till I come up with an understanding that lets me know that prior wounds inflicted by myself or others, I'm not going to blame myself for those, and I'm not going to blame myself because I didn't wake up sooner to the truth either. But I'm going to pray to see those now because at one time they were too difficult. I couldn't see before because that hurt, and I didn't know how I'd been wounded. I didn't want to see the truth at that time. I couldn't. So whatever age you are, when you decide that you want to recognize, have a new understanding of your life, who you are, and to whom you belong, you may choose that at any time. I want to reconnect to my true self that I've allowed to stay hidden. I claim my divine wisdom, divinity, value, and worth, and I give voice to and from my true self. I lovingly release everything in my life that does not serve the higher good. That may be relationships. And you know if someone's using you. You know that. You know down in your heart if somebody's using you. You need to stop. You're better than that. You can take care of yourself. You don't need to depend on someone else that's going to harm you, abuse you. Anything in my life that does not serve the higher good, I'm going to let it go. I mentioned a moment ago about people that will keep you waiting. I used to have a friend many, many years ago when we lived in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and she had suffered a loss, her husband, who was our best friend. And I did my best to help her. For so long, I did my best to help her. But I'd go pick her up for lunch. She was routinely 20 minutes late. Well, I had an hour for lunch, and then she would extend. Anyway, love her still. Love her still. Anytime we met, any place we went, anything, it was always the same thing. I waited and I waited and I waited. And at some point, I decided I wasn't going to wait anymore because you know what? And this may be an epiphany for each of you sitting out there this morning too. My time was as valuable as hers. There is nobody whose time is more valuable than yours. May I repeat that? And I understand you may have a doctor's office where you have to go and wait 5 hours. I don't know if I want to tackle that or not. But I do know that the ones that are truly aware, they make certain that they don't overbook, and they make certain that they get as many patients through efficiently but effectively too as they can. Now, if you're hanging out with someone that thinks their time is more valuable than yours, I encourage you to check your self-worth. I really do. So I hereby lovingly release everything in my life that does not serve the higher good. As Jesus said, do unto others. And you know what? The opposite is true too. You can turn that around anytime you want to. No one more worthy than me, their time, their value, their anything. I am not less than anyone. I don't care what education they have. I don't care what royalty they may have ascended from. You are not less than anybody. And don't allow anybody to treat you that way. And importantly, don't treat anybody else that way either. I've chosen to come at this time and am waking to my higher self. I'm enough. I'm here to make a difference in the world by accepting my divinity. I Thank you, God. And whichever one of these you need to affirm, and maybe you don't, but it just came to me this week. I meditate and I'll think during the first of the week, and I'll just pray that whatever message I need to give on Sunday will be given to me. And I'll have a word, then the next thing you know, there'll be something else that'll pop up. And then the next thing you know, here's an article, and here's this, and there's that. And it is a true miracle, Bob. And since we're looking for miracles, and this was what came up to me this week, is talking about our self-worth and how important it is. And we were all raised by humans, damaged humans, imperfect humans. And we are too. I suspect we won't ever be perfect, but we can be the best we can be. And that's what I'm trying to do. And when we were in Puerto Rico, we were in Costa Rica, actually, not Puerto Rico. That's next. Let's give it a while. It was hot and humid there. I wouldn't have thought something could be more hot and humid than here, but you know what? There is. But it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And one of the things that's going to help you find your true worth is finding what brings you joy, what makes you smile, what really, really brings out the best in you. Look for that. Look for that. And I wanted to share. This is Shelby, our other singer this morning, and she's a wild child. She may not look like it. She went to USM and completed her bachelor degree last year. When she went to school, she decided that her parents were not going to pay for it. She had scholarships, and it ended up, she held her nose to the grindstone because that scholarship was going to run out. And for 4 years, she did that. And she completed her degree. I was talking earlier about discipline, Shelby. And she did it. She completed that because it was important to her. She set a goal and she did it. And that's discipline. Thank you, Shelby. But this is what she enjoys. She's wild and crazy. She goes with her dad to Universal, and they ride the craziest rides there that they can find. So certainly when people were going on the zip line, she did that and was just, as you can see by the look on her face, she was absolutely blissful. So I would encourage you this morning, if any of my words have meant anything to you, and I hope they've been helpful. And if nothing else, I hope that they've been pleasing. And I hope that you've had a joyful time here this morning, and that you will find that Unity of Gulfport is a loving and wonderful place to be. And I wish you all a blessed week. Thank you for your time.
And thank you, Reverend Judy,